recording.
And we're live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon,
And I'm Nathan.
and tonight we have another very special episode. We have the 1964 movie Zulu. Nathan, do you have a history with the movie Zulu?
Oh, yeah, this was, I believe, the first VHS cassette I bought.
Okay.
And I think I got it through school
Oh, huh.
because it was like the charter edition, which had the original artwork on the cover, like that the movie came out with in the 60s.
Huh.
And I've probably seen this movie 50 times because I
Yeah.
just watched it a bunch because it's cool.
Yeah, I remember being in our VHS collections. I remember watching it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Um, though did not remember. I just remember the vague things of it. So watching this time was almost like a completely. Well, no, a lot of things were still the same, but like I thought it was more deserty and dusty, not like green mountains in South Africa. So wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, a little less Lawrence of Arabia, a little more Fertile Crescent.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. I watched this movie a bunch, and watching it this time, it's like, yep, because I was a lot older than you, so it's like I soaked in more of the details. It's like I remember everything that happened.
well, I remember the thing I was surprised that I took away when I was a kid is that like the Zulu aren't the bad people.
Oh no, it seems like they're doing terrible things. It's like, yeah, well, it's their country. I mean,
Yeah.
this guys start shooting everyone with rifles. That tends to piss you off.
And so yeah, but it is interesting, and I'm not sure if it's like racism or whatever. But like, you have the king of the Zulu who's there for like the opening, and then it's just there is no individual character or dialogue from any of the Zulu for the rest of
No,
the movie, which is either uh racism or an interesting choice.
I think it was an interesting choice to cause fear because when you learn about the history of the director of this movie, who's an American, by the way, um, I don't think he was like a cultural imperialist in any way. I think it made the Zulu scary that like, oh, they never parlay. They never like, hey, let's talk terms. No, never. That they were an alien. There were two alien forces colliding that did not speak each other's language. It did not understand each other.
Yeah.
At least in terms of like the commanders on either side. By the way, the guy who played the king, except for Michael Caine, I think he's the only guy left alive, or he died in 2023.
Huh.
So Michael Caine's the last man standing in this film,
Oh,
I believe,
okay.
which makes sense because he was 30 when he got this role,
Oh,
and
really? Okay. Well, because
yeah, he's in his 90s now. So
oh, really? Yeah. I guess I didn't think he was that old, but like, huh, guess because like I guess he has an introducing by credit for this movie, but it wasn't necessarily his first movie, or maybe it was his first theatrical movie. I'm not sure. So
first big breakout role for him, they
yeah.
described it as. Because a lot of people are like, that's Michael Caine's first movie, but really the big name actor in it was the guy who played Chard. That was
Baker.
Baker. Yeah, this was like when it came out, everyone's like, "Oh, this is a Stanley Baker movie." But now, because he died in the 70s,
Yeah.
at exactly the same age of the guy he was portraying, both died at 49 from cancer. It's weird. Uh,
Yeah, I didn't realize until after I watched the movie this time that this was like a real event. I just thought
yeah,
this was just some action movie that they came up with.
up. This was the Battle of Rorke's Drift that came right after the Battle of Isla. Looks like it's a Zulu word. Island in the I don't can't do these words in Islandwana essentially.
Okay.
That's the one that you see in the opening credits where all the British guys are dead.
Yeah.
That was 1,500 people were wiped out to them, which was a huge. The British had not seen a defeat that profound since the Revolutionary War, almost 100 years earlier, or no, yeah, because this happened 10 years after our Civil War. So, yeah, it would have been like 115 years. I
Okay.
think the last time the British were defeated that soundly was like maybe the Battle of Ticonderoga. I'm not sure. It was one of the last Revolutionary War battles, and they're really being pushed off the continent.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the worst one since then. I believe. I could be wrong in my military history, but these are the highlights I read.
Yeah. So this would be like, even though it's a fictional movie, this is around the same time as Quickly Down Under.
Yeah, this is in the 1870s.
Okay.
So yeah, 1879, 18. So it's always 10 years after the American Civil War, because you can tell like the tech has advanced, but not much.
Yeah.
Because instead of breech loading, we're using cartridges, but we're using them one at a time.
Yeah.
There's no magazine fed, tube fed.
I mean,
Stuff.
there would have been stuff by then, but like it's hard to like arm an entire army. So
Yeah, it wouldn't
and
have been service stuff.
well, also like the rifles you're using have like I imagine. Well, you probably looked into it, but that's like a huge round. But it's probably like inefficient powder in it. But it's just a big round. Because I remember they showed off like I saw a video of that they're using like Napoleonic rifles and like showing how like what happens to like ballistics gel when you fire one of those things. It's like holy shit, that's just devastating.
It's a massive wound cavity.
Yeah, this is why you need 100 guys standing in a row to hit one person. It's like, yeah, that one thing is going to kill them, especially with the medicine at the time. Like, they're going to be dead. So.
Yeah, these essentially at this time would have been 303 caliber Martin Infields.
Okay.
Conversion, but they actually changed rifles halfway through the movie because they ran out of blanks for the one rifle. So the rifles do subtly change.
Okay.
Because in the closer scenes, they're using weapons that were never equipped with a bayonet mount. Okay. But in the larger scenes where they mount bayonets, I think they ran out of ammo for those.
Oh, okay.
Blanks for those. So yeah, that's why. Because it was just all a bunch of antique, pre-World War I crap. It was like, can we buy a warehouse of it? Sure. Yeah. We got millions of the things. So yeah.
Yeah, they're just making a movie with surplus stuff laying around. So
yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, I remember that was like a funny trivia about Barry Lyndon. Is that like, I think it won for like best costumes or something like that. One of the Oscars like that, and they literally just their costumes was just like they got them from a museum.
Yeah. And also Barry Lyndon was filmed with all natural light everywhere.
Yeah.
So you could hide a lot of the the clothes, like, oh, that really looks like the authentic clothes. It's like, yeah, it's the authentic lighting. Colors were just really washed out and everything because candlelight's not like a good thing. But interior shots were a nightmare because they're wearing those like clothes of that period, but they had to light 4 times as many candles as you normally just to get it on film.
Well, yeah, and they're like throwing mirrors everywhere. It's like yeah, it's natural lighting, but we got to reflect it so we can amplify it so the camera can actually see it. So
we're going to reflect this natural light around so much we'll recreate that trick in physics where the light disappears if you split. Where did it go? To a parallel universe. Huh? And they figured out and leave it alone.
So yeah, there's definitely a movie. What's that?
Oh, the thing about where does light go? That was like from the, you hear that and you're like, oh, did they do that in the 60s? It's like, no, they did it like the late 19th century. They were hypothesizing there must be an alternate dimension. We always think we're the first people to think about that. It's like, no, they've been thinking about that crap a long time.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the language we do for it.
Well, it's like, it's, it's like people in, the year 1000 knew the earth was round, and now that's under debate. It's like, so, because people are morons. So.
Yeah, that's only under debate because people are either A, trolling, which is what I hope, or B, stupid.
Yeah.
But I think the flat earth stuff is just like interdimensional level trolling. I don't think anyone.
No, there's people that just. No, it's just one of those. It's one of those like the common sense people, which I know it's always a thing. Like if everyone just used common sense, like everything would fix itself. And it's like, sure, but like everyone has a different level of common sense. So
if everyone used common sense, they'd be a commoner. There'd be no art. There'd be no beauty. Everyone would just build square buildings.
Well, here's
it's the best way to do it.
Well, here's like a thing I came up with, which I'm not sure if I said on the show or even maybe I've told you. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm repeating myself. But so there's that story about like, NASA spent millions of dollars creating a pen to use in outer space. And what do the Russians do? They used a pencil.
Yep.
Except that's not what happens. So Fisher, the guy who made the space pen, who used to work for Bic,
Yeah.
it was a contract, or it was a, what do you call that when you're competing for a contract?
Bid contract.
Yeah, bid contract. So he developed his pen. He submitted his bid. His was the best pen, and NASA bought his pens.
And I have one of those. It's called a Fisher Space Pen. It uses
Yeah.
a pressurized ball of ink. You can write all floating in space or not.
So NASA didn't spend millions of dollars developing it. This guy developed it and won the contract.
Yeah.
Also, why NASA doesn't use pencils in space is because the graphite would flake off and get in the computers and create a fire.
Yeah, yeah.
So
you don't want to breathe wood pulp and stuff in your lungs. Yeah, there's good reasons for it.
So, and if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, common sense will get you killed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, flat Earth people stand on the ground and like, it looks straight to me. I can put a ruler on it.
It's only moving at 11,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, again, they can't see that in front of their eyes, so they don't believe it.
You could, life would suck. Look at the sky. It's called scalability, but yeah.
And it's usually just like, you know, people are just all about like, somebody is trying to control you. It's always the government, and so everything is in disbelief. So, you know.
Yeah, but the only people that are trying to control you are people that are trying to steal your money or enslave you. It's all motivated by capital. It's always like, no, it's the philosophy. It's like, no, they just want to control your money. They want to have all the money. They want to tell you what to not to do, and they're going to do the same thing.
And I like learn.
My favorite, my new idiocy was people who say they see giants. And all of a sudden they're experts on like cameras and distance. Like a camera in the distance will see a man walking down the side of a hill and like, that's a giant. And I just think it's like these people are just messing with everyone. No one is this. Everyone's a 12th century peasant now. Nobody believes there's giants. There'd be a lot more evidence than your camera.
Yeah,
that's why I like the UFO stuff, but I know, or in the ghost TV shows, I watch all that stuff, but it's because I don't have to think. I just want to see other people not think too, because I'm not smart enough. I'm not a scientist. I can't disprove what they're saying, but I know on a fundamental level it's untrue, and therefore it's fun. And I also know that like they don't believe it either, but can they convince me that they believe it? That's the challenge I get out of it.
Well, it's never scientific because they're always under the thing that this thing has to exist, so they look for all evidence that would point to it existing, rather than having a hypothesis, weighing the evidence, and deciding off of evidence, rather than cherry picking your evidence to fit your hypothesis.
But it is a great like imagination exercise.
Yeah.
It's like the reality of it is like we're going to go into this asylum that's haunted. And then all of a sudden, Steve's skin gets ripped off his body by something we can't see. Clearly, that is evidence that something evil is there, and now it's time to leave. You're not going to sit in the dark and yell, "Do you want to fight me?" It's like, it already ripped Steve's skin. We've got our evidence, but that never seems to happen.
Well, also, like, in every ghost show, there's never this thing where, like, because there's always this, like, well, what happened here? And they give a story of, like, who is it, who died here, and all this stuff. Like, if you're truly scientific, you would bring you'd bring all your equipment and never ask anybody any questions. Like, you say this building's haunted, we'll see what the evidence is. But they're always like, somebody died here, we're gonna ask for the name of the people who died here, and then it's like, okay, this.
Yeah, if you just went to that building and it's like someone named William died in 1612, it's like, did you know that before? No, he told me. Oh wow, that's evidence. Okay, there or something. Usually it's a quick database search before you go in, but yeah, if it was real, sure.
Or like, this isn't a closed down asylum. If you just told some scientists we're gonna take some readings in a building, like, it would never conclude that it's haunted.
Yeah. Yes, our conclusion is we've decided a form of energy in science we do not yet understand is at work here. You don't even get that. It's like there's nothing here. Or that's like,
oh man, somebody really fucked up the electronics in this, or They laid
Or
down.
there's swamp gas coming through the
Yeah.
basement and everyone's stoned or something. But the UFO stuff's interesting. It doesn't prove anything, but the fictional world that's built around it is fascinating.
Yeah.
I just like the world building in it.
Oh, I mean, space is still a great unknown. You can still anything come from anywhere. It's
Yeah.
so big. You can't even see it all with your naked eye.
No, you don't even know what it is. You don't even know what the hell's going on.
What's dark matter? We don't know. We just know it exists because the math says so.
Yeah. How do you know dark matter exists? It's an absence of something. Or when you calculate the volume of space based on our experience, there's a lot of dark spaces out there that aren't just, they have to contain something. We know there's mass there, but yeah, that's when they lose me because I can't do math like that. So it's like, oh, I'll take your word for it.
That's not my job. I don't have to worry about it. So.
Look, giants, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I mean, like, all that stuff was way funner when it was like there wasn't the internet and cameras weren't everywhere, and because what was the Leonard Nimoy one we always loved to watch?
In Search
In
of.
Search of, yes, because it was a great mystery. Then it's like this is all possible.
Yeah. Yeah, once high definition cameras that are immediately uploadable to a worldwide database system that no government could stop. Once you release it on there, it's like, oh, we're going to find out the UFO thing and the ghost. We're going to know one way or another. And it's, yeah, unfortunately, we do. We know it's not real. It's not happening. Because do you think if there was a UFO hovering over my house and I had it on my iPhone, do you think for a second I would keep that to myself? I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
Or anyone would. No one. I mean, I might hold out and say, like, what's the most money the New York Times? Maybe that's where they'd catch me, but I'd make sure I had 15 copies of it somewhere. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, that has a lot to do with the movie.
Yeah, we grew up with Zulu.
Yeah, we grew up with
a more innocent time when we had Zulu. But I always thought this was almost like a prototype zombie movie because it's just like the horde, the wave of attacks and stuff like that. Which then I had the image later on of like, oh man, they should have done this in Walking Dead or something at some point. Because I know at some point in The Walking Dead they just had like, there's like literally millions of zombies like walking the highway. And then I was just imagining like maybe some remnants of the military left and they like have a mission with one last B-52 bomber doing a blanket bombing on a zombie horde. It's like, that'd be awesome.
I remember when I went to U of M Stadium to see a football game once, it's like I solved the zombie apocalypse because there's so many giant tunnels to get into that stadium.
Yeah.
We block all but one of them off, put an old-fashioned air raid siren in the middle of it and just stack it full of wood pallets and draw them all in and then light it on fire. It's a giant torch. All because they're not thinking enemies.
Yeah.
They're just going to be drawn towards the noise, and then you just create, barricades where they're just shot into a funnel, and they'll just start falling over each other. And once you can't get any more in, you just take a bulldozer and push the one exit closed and light them on fire. And you could do it over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not like it would destroy it. Giant cement structure.
Yeah.
I mean, burn all the seats and stuff in the field up, but who cares? It's the apocalypse. Like you're going to be playing football anytime soon.
Oh, I hear the Zulu aren't mindless enemies. They're just like very careless with with how they deploy their people. Well, it's not careless. It's done as probing attacks, but like it's like, okay, all these guys are gonna die, so we can learn how many rifles these guys have. And it's like that's pretty cruel. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But that's like their a part of their ability is just like more people. We just have more people. Yeah, so it came out June 17, 1964, which none of us were alive, so I don't know if Mom and Dad ever saw this movie. I don't know. Director is Cy Ingfield?
Yes.
Oh, Infield. Okay, no, it's not. It has a underscore here, so it looked like a G. Nathan, can you tell us about Cy Infield? I don't think I looked him up. So.
Cyril Raker Infield.
Okay.
So it's a cool name.
Sounds like a Star Trek name or Star Trek.
Yeah. It's not infield, it's Indfield. I got to say that right.
Yeah.
He was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and he died in Warwickshire, England in 1995. He was 80 years old.
Okay.
Uh, one of his first jobs was with Orson Welles' Mercury Theater.
Huh.
Uh, he didn't work there very long, but that's where he started. And then he worked at MGM studio. He kind of became a house. Started making the propaganda films in World War II for like
Okay.
RK, MGM. All those. Yeah,
Yeah, he seemed like a systems like director. Like here's a movie. Like let's go make it. So
he was this pro. What they call that, the process studio system guy. Yeah, he made a lot of the World War II propaganda, like help our boys fight the Japs, and gather scrap metal or whatever they were doing back.
him and Dr. Seuss, it's together. Walt Disney too.
Somehow, if you gathered scrap metal and rubber tires, you were going to defeat the Nazis. But I don't know what their manufacturing and stuff back then was a lot different than now. But then he got in trouble, dun dun, in 1950 by the House on Un-American Activity. Because it seemed like a lot of people in the 30s, when the Depression was a going thing, might have attended a meeting of the Communist Party just to see, it's like, what do these guys have to offer?
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, you're blacklisted out of Hollywood.
Okay.
I ended up, going to England and just kept extending his stay. And the British government there was no House on Un-British Activities. They didn't, that was another one of the weird American aberration things we do, where they didn't care. They're like, yeah, keep him around, keep extending his visa, let him keep working. So that's why I said earlier, I was like, this guy seems to be kind of, for his time, was sort of a leftist.
Okay.
But I don't think attending a meeting of the Communist Party in the 1930s in America is a crazy thing.
No.
Considering it's like, well, I don't have bread. So what just saying to us. Now it would be weird, but back then it's like, well, maybe this whole Depression thing proves this system doesn't work and we need to try something else. That's almost everyone who made the atomic bomb got in trouble like that, and a lot of guys that fought in and during World War II that really got to know the Soviets were very frightened of communists after that, and anything and anyone who was a communist needed to be nailed to the wall and shot, because of they had valid reasons for feeling the way they did. They just really came to America and freaked out over it. And then, of course, industrialists and capitalists exploited their fear by, yeah, you're right. We need to run these people to ground. They might form unions or want to get paid for their work, and we can't have that. That's not the American way. So, yeah, that's always funny when you get back to films from this era and that stuff. Man, they blacklisted so many people. Yeah. It was insane.
So yeah, this is pretty much the most known movie I know when I looked up his like filmography, but like he seemed to be like a systems guy, so it's like, yeah, let's just knock these out. So
yeah, this movie was definitely, it was an apex movie in a lot of people's careers that were in this movie.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have seen this movie. This movie was, I read a lot of different reviews of it from both English and American perspectives. And in Britain, it was a real big deal. And in America, it was a big deal at the time, but it kind of got, as there was a lot of war movies that came out between the 60s and the 70s. And this was always remembered as like, oh, this was kind of the cool beginning of a lot of that. And it sort of ended with the Patton film of like the cool different era war movies.
Yeah.
But this is one of those movies that's like, it is equally as popular in the U.S. as it was in the UK. Even though it was, mainly about their history, and a lot of people weren't sure exactly where it was. It was like, oh, this is cool. And it's got really good acting all the way through it. And it looks cool. And it's got great sound design.
Yes. Yeah, this is the oldest movie we've done.
Yeah.
1964. Somebody did a really good cleanup job on this, because it does not. It looks good and sounds good.
Yes.
which is, we can't say that for a lot of the movies we've like happened upon in this series. So
interestingly, one of the things that works in this movie is the soundtrack and sound design. John Barry was the guy who did the soundtrack for this. You would know him. he came up with, the real brassy sound of the James Bond movies from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Da-na-na-na, that. Okay, this is the guy. No, he didn't come up with that one.
Oh, okay.
He came up with the stuff kind of going towards the end of, because what did he do? Doctor No, Thunderball was where he really like established that kind of brass sound that went on. I mean, all the way through the Roger Moore era, But it was this guy that did it. And once you know that and you listen to the soundtrack and the sound design in this movie, it's like, yep, there's a lot of brass at work in this movie. There's a lot of clashing cymbals and deep, when there's fighting going on, there's lots of brass instruments being played like in a cacophonous way. So.
This was shot by Stephen Dade, who seemed to be another systems guy, but a British systems guy. He did a lot of horror movies, so he's just a for-hire guy. So, written by John Pebble and Cy Infield, which again, he just seemed to be like, this might be the biggest thing he ever did. So,
best known at least here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that pops out, but yeah, again, this is real old stuff. So.
This is 10 years before I was born.
Cast is Stanley Baker, Jack Hawkins, and Ua Jacobson.
Yes.
And but of course, the only person I know is Michael Caine. So. But again, this was his first role. A pretty substantial role for the time. So.
Oh yeah, and a very different Michael Caine performance too.
Yeah.
Michael Caine is known more to us as kind of,
it's like blue collar kind of.
Yeah, like people. The Cockney, like blue collar British guy.
Usually a criminal.
Living.
Yeah.
No one did nothing for me. And in this movie, he's like, I can't really I can't do his accent, but he seemed more like, oh yeah, my grandfather did this and my father did this and I do this. But he's not necessarily a snob about it. He's like, yeah.
Well, he is in the beginning, but his character changes over time. Well, it's interesting. It's like the Michael Caine character and the Hook character had the same exact character arc, but just from completely different walks of life. So,
and the Hook character was originally the role Michael Caine auditioned for.
Huh? Okay.
He was supposed to be that guy because he is more of that like Cockney blue collar British guy. Yeah. That's his background, I guess. As much as it's like that's who Michael Caine is for me. And I didn't. And that's all I ever knew about it until Guy Ritchie came along with like his movies. It's like, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about.
So again, we have Act 1, titles January 23rd, 1879. We get like a correspondence and an apology of an engagement with the Zulu, and then we cut to just like an entire British regiment dead and like stuff's on fire, like cannons are strewn about everywhere, and no dead Zulu. Nope. So don't know what to make of that. They just had a flawless victory with seemingly here, so because they just start going.
The narration done by Richard Burton.
Huh. Okay. Huh.
Another famous Welshman, another famous Welsh actor. And there's a lot of them, but yeah, this was a very Welsh heavy movie.
Yeah.
The most famous one we would know is Anthony Hopkins, but yeah, Richard Burton did all the narration for this kind of at the last minute.
Huh.
So it's kind of cool once you find that out. Didn't know that. And then as soon as I knew that and I heard it, I'm like, of course it's Richard Burton.
Wait, who's Richard Burton?
Let's see. What would the role?
Oh, is he an actor or is he just like a voiceover guy?
He's an actor. Oh, he's a big time actor. We would know him.
Was he in?
A lot of Shakespeare, but his last role was 1984.
Right. Okay. That's who I was thinking of. Okay.
He played the inner party. What was his name? I forget. The guy who tortured Smith.
Yeah. Because we last saw him in the Exorcist 2 movie.
He was O'Brien. Yep. Because I remember he had his because they had those work uniforms that like the ones I wear. They call them boiler suits in England. We call them like coveralls or whatever.
Yeah.
But he had his made at an actual like a place that made like suits. Like I think he had it made by Savile Row himself and paid money for it because he's like, well, this will distinguish me as an inner party member. It's like, so we're gonna have like this world class suit maker make a boiler suit for you. He really thought about a lot of things he did. He had a very wild life, and man, did he love to drink to a new level. But he used to be the narrator in this movie.
The Zulu go through the spoils of wars. They're like picking up all the rifles and stuff, which will come and play later. Then we see the hills lined with Zulu. So like this is what you could do back in the old days. Just an impressive, massive people to put in your movie, and now it's just all CGI. But you watch old movies, you'll be impressed by how many people they'll shove into space.
And they always have that cool chanting and shield clacking.
Yeah.
Which I think like Peter Jackson borrowed a lot in his later like Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
Because you listen to like the chanting here and then the clack, clack, clack. If you watch any of the Lord of the Rings movies, it's like that sounds very similar to that. Also, a lot of stuff in when they do a lot of chanting, it reminds me of the stuff that was going on in Close Encounters.
Yeah.
When the desert was just full of people. And they were like singing a song almost. It's like this is only at the end of the movie, and it's important for a different reason. But yeah, it's like that reminds me of like, did Steven Spielberg watch this? And it's like I want to get 100,000 people singing somewhere, art it in a foreign language.
Then we cut to there's like some sort of Zulu dance ceremony going on with like spears and shields. There's a ring of huts that's like some like kind of like make a sort of a fort up or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. This seems to be like this isn't the only source of Zulu people. They must be just all over the place. But like, yeah, or they just make themselves seem bigger. I'm not sure, but they're spit roasting some animal. I think it's just a cow or whatever kind of cattle they have there.
Yeah,
because it seems to be like looks exactly like or at least the bulls look exactly like bulls here, but they're like have like just a weirder twist to their horns. It's like, oh, they're just slightly different. So,
I know in South Africa they love steak like we do. So
okay,
probably bought like Spanish cattle down there and interbred them with the local things.
Yeah, probably.
There's a big thing down there like the Cape Buffalo or something. That yeah, that's they call that the Black Death. The most dangerous land mammal in Africa is the Cape Buffalo.
Huh.
Because it's as big as a truck and it has a brain the size of a walnut. It'll crush you and won't even think about it. It's just this big, dumb animal that's tends to get skittish. Those are the ones that like the way they beat the lions is they run in random formations.
Yeah.
So when the lions attack them, they try to they almost move like in like those starling migration patterns because the lions will lose the ability to discriminate against one target.
Yeah.
So they always pick off the old ones at the back or whatever. But yeah, that's a Cape Buffalo.
Huh.
And they call, like I said, they call them the Black Death because they are stupid and they will just crush you against the wall and not even know it. But if you've ever been around cows you got to watch your feet. Don't get near a wall because they'll just bash right into you and crush you. They weigh as much as a car and they're walking around.
There's some singing as well. Something we see like a couple of white people are sitting beside the king, I guess, which I feel he has a name, starts with a K. There's a lot of things in South Africa that starts with K. So,
his name is actually with a C. It's King Cetshwayo. Satewo.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
That's how I'm gonna say it because otherwise it would be like Sateshwio,
yeah,
which sounds Japanese. So I don't
know. But like this is the closest we have to like a character from the Zulu, like a singular character, like in this movie of the Zulus.
Yeah,
and there's like the kid who's like the interpreter who has like some like a button-up shirt on and like a bowler hat.
Yeah,
it's like don't know what's going on there. It's like up for you to interpret. So, Margareta, because this is like what Swedish missionaries that have come out here to try to like
Otto and Margareta Witt.
Yeah.
Ulla Jacobson is actually Swedish and speaks with a Swedish accent. Her father does not. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it.
That's what when British made like World War II movies, like all the Nazis were also just had British accents. So it's like, I want it.
which translated into Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's like all the Imperial officers are British guys. It's like, why did you do that? Is that because of the Revolutionary War? It's like, no, they just watched a lot of World War II movies, and that just became all the guys had British accents that were German. Otherwise, they'd be shouting at each other in German, which nobody likes. So,
Margareta, which is a interesting twist on a name.
yeah.
She's kind of spellbound by the ceremony and the meaning, but then she's appalled because this is all just like arranged mirrors going on, which doesn't seem to be like nobody here seems to be necessarily like forced into it, or it's all ceremony. I don't know, but maybe
It seems like, yeah, it's a mass. It's like a what we'd call like a Moonies marriage. The Moonies, the cults, when
yeah,
they'd
yeah,
have 10,000 people get married in a day. It's like I don't know how much people are just all the women want to marry a warrior according to what the kings say,
yeah,
and so they just get picked by a warrior and they're married.
yeah,
Um, and the reverend tells the king, it's like, this is sad for me to see because because they're obviously ramping up for another attack, and it's like there's going to be a lot of widows
yeah,
if
yeah.
you attack the British again. And the king just laughs and waves this thing around like, whatever. Very, very confident man.
Yeah. But their thing is numbers, so we just need to kick out some babies to
Yeah, this is
build the
why
war
we have
machine.
mass weddings. We need lots of warriors. Lots of warriors.
Scout shows up and
From watching Forged in Fire, Zulu weapons, brutal.
yeah.
They know hand to hand combat.
Well,
Because
I was
that's
surprised like the short spears they have. It's like because I always remember like the longer the spear seems like it's better, but they got short stuff. Um, and like the cow leather shields or whatever. But also like the most dangerous thing, at least what's portrayed here, I don't know the reality of it, is the ability for a mass amount of people to run together.
that's why they have short spears.
Yeah.
Because it's not like fighting that stick, or it's not hanging behind you and tripping the guy's feet.
yeah.
You bring up that shield and you get that, because that spear is more like a short sword
Yeah.
than a spear. That's how it's supposed to be used, and they're also pretty damn big.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're actually, I've seen them used on dummies, because on Forge and Fire the challenge is make one of these. They also had swords, but they didn't have points. They just had hooked barbs on the end of them,
Huh.
and they were made for swinging over like an embankment.
Right. Okay.
Now, a lot of those weapons were wildly effective in fighting amongst themselves. Fighting a Englishman with a bayonet, not so much, because he's actually got a much longer weapon than you. But yeah, when you're just doing massed attacks, like those Zulu short swords are nasty
Yeah.
because they do a lot. They have that what do they call that? That drop on them.
Yeah.
So they kind of come out, and they come out in the middle and they bulge out. They're designed to do a lot of damage going in and coming out, and it's very well thought out. It's really only hitting rifles that stopped it. But as you can see in this movie, they're pretty damn effective when you're just shooting a repeating rifle. You went up against a machine gun embankment, not so much, but they didn't have weapons like that then. Or interestingly, cannons. But they had cannons later, but not in this movie.
Yeah. So yeah, Scott runs up to the king. There's some commotion that's yet to be revealed. Here's where they reveal that like 1,000 British soldiers were massacred, which is like, damn. I mean, they show it in the beginning, but it's still like, and like you read the history, it's like, damn, they killed them all, man. And then again, like what they show is like they did it flawlessly, but I actually don't know how that engagement happened. So,
Well, the Battle of Isdalwana, which is how I'm going to say it, over 1,300 British were killed, 52 officers, and 727 regulars. And then you had what they called the native contingent, which those were other black guys. And then you had, like, I guess what we call South African volunteers, which were kind of an irregular militia. So really, the standing British army that died there was about 800 people out of the 1,300.
Yeah.
The rest of them were like people that were like that was not the professional corps. It was kind of like a militia, and then native populations that either got pressed or volunteered into it. You know, your guess.
Yeah.
Um, but they also lost 5,000 people doing it, so
Okay.
it was not a flawless victory as depicted.
Okay. Um.
But it was 20,000 total warriors versus 1,800
Okay.
regular troops, and the British, contingent. So it was, but
Well,
still,
they had cannons here. At least the engagement we see. There's no cannons.
no, yeah, they had cannons. I forget. There's a book. There's a few books about it. I didn't get to read one, but it basically there is a book that the synopsis I read of it explained the defeat came because the British just committed their forces too quickly. If they had attacked, with one group and waited for relief in the other group, they probably could have held out. But because they just like, we're just going to take them all in one slot. It's kind of like that crazy thing. It's like, we're going to run straight up the middle. It's like, well, you're all going to die. That's not
Yeah, they
like,
just wait and then you're surrounded.
Yeah.
Because I mean, one of the cool things about the Zulu in this movie is all the tactics they use. Because they don't have superior weapons, but they use tactics to do flanking maneuvers and like feints and all this stuff.
yeah.
Also, I don't know if this is like a lack of details or we don't get into it, but like the British, you have all these different support roles of cooks and stuff like that. Zulu, it's like, man, how are they feeding all these people? Because they go light, like they got a spear and a shield, so they must be just foraging as they go.
Yeah, they don't have like Vittlers and like a whole contingent of people that like we bake the bread and cook the food, and it's like nope, they're just fighting as they go.
Yeah,
which would actually make sense.
yeah,
They know they're masters of that land, so
yeah, and it's very hilly.
yes,
Which also makes like the fight, like the ultimate engagement, like seem weird because it's like they're surrounded on all sides basically by hills. And it's like that seems like a very disadvantaged situation, but they have to protect these two buildings. So.
well, and also it only worked because the Zulus did not use ranged attack. They did not use bows, rifles effectively.
Yeah.
They didn't have cannon. So yeah, usually if you're fighting like an uphill battle, well, you've lost because you're taking twice the casualties for the same result as your enemy in terms of ground, but not when it's all close quarters combat.
Yeah.
In some rifle usage, but not highly effective.
They're not trained in using this.
No, it's just like if you handed
out.
me a rifle and said go shoot people, it's like all right, you wouldn't know what the hell you're doing.
Margareta and Otto get in their carriage. One guy like holds him up, but then he gets stabbed by another Zulu, and they like let him go. That was
the
kind of
king
weird.
like symbol because he's trying to grab Margareta.
Yeah,
he's like he's like excited or whatever. Let's take her too, and the king like just makes a gesture and just someone goes up, stabs the guy.
Yeah.
And then Margareta gets blood all over her dress, and she's screaming like "Father!" And he's just like hitting the horse. It's the old because they're driving the hot rod buggy with two wheels. So that's what I call the Amish hot rod.
Oh, okay.
The two-wheeled one versus the four-wheeled one.
Which great blood in this movie. It's just bright paint, essentially, not even trying to look like blood. It's just.
What is it? Was it cameras back then? Like real blood just looked black, or stuff.
Yeah.
You tried to make it look real, like the color technique would look like molasses or something.
Yeah, it could be.
They always went with the paint.
Yeah.
I remember hearing something. I don't know if it's true. It could be a bunch of crap. I don't know. Everything I hear on the internet. So, look, giants.
Yeah, I learned how to make Cairo syrup blood from If Chins Could Kill Confessions of a B-Movie Actor, because that's what they used for Sam Raimi used from a bunch of his horror movies. And then I remember there was like a special British fake blood maker. They made it because then like it wouldn't attract bugs because that's what they used in No Country for Old Men. So,
Yeah, they put Cairo syrup at that scene where the drug shootout happened, in the parts of Texas they were shooting, and they would have been covered with bugs.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um. Then we cut to we see some British soldiers are like overseeing like a bridge building with like manual labor.
yes.
Um, like they have the part where like they made a section of the bridge and they just have guys like coordinating shoving it like in a heave hove kind of thing going on.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah. I was like,
They're
oh,
singing a song while they do it, like to
yeah,
coordinate their effort.
yeah. um, yeah, like there's like, I remember there was a TV show. I can't remember what it was called, but basically it was like these guys did like demolition work, and they were just like bodybuilders that just like let's just punch a wall down and just use like it's like, oh yeah, that must be like low overhead when you're like you just have a sledgehammer for all your tools and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So,
You guys getting the jackhammer, renting an air compressor? Nope, we're just bashing down. We're just running right through the walls with our. Okay.
uh, yeah, your medical bills, your overhead. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not part of the contract though. So.
Here we have Lieutenant Chard looks on, which is a great name, which came of confusion later on because there's a bit where like they're standing in the burnt out like church, and I think Chard is talking about the bodies in the church and like how do we know who they are? It's like we don't. And I think he says charred, and I thought he meant the charred bodies, but he's just saying the guy's name.
Yeah.
Or it's both. I don't know. Do you remember having that
Well, I know.
confusion?
Yeah, it was Michael Caine was trying to bring him back
Okay.
because he was talking about how do we know about that. He was kind of going on, and he was like, "Chard, we have stuff to worry about here." I know what you're talking about is like, where are the bodies? Charred. Yeah. No, wait, no. It becomes a who's on first.
Yeah.
What's where are we going here?
um, we cut to we spend some time in the hospital with the injured soldiers. I think this is where we meet Hook. I'm not sure if this is where he's like, yeah, that's where he's like running like a con game on people here, and he's like, there's like his sergeant who's like is like delirious, but he calls him like a cripple, and you have no idea what's wrong with him, and he gets some like and malingering stuff is thrown around, which that's always a fun word where you just you say you can't fight, you just say you're sick. It's like when you didn't want to go to school, so that's malingering, which is a fun word.
That is a good word. I like that word.
Um,
I'm gonna have to use that when guys don't show up at work for 3 days. Oh, you were malingering. What did you call me? No, forget it.
Then we get Lieutenant Bromhead, which I'm probably going to forget his name throughout this movie because it's like it's head something, right? And it's like Bromhead, which sounds like Broomhead.
His first name, which is very memorable, Gonville. Gonville Bromhead. Real guy.
He wasn't like a third or anything like that, was he?
Let's see. Major General Gonville Bromhead. Recipient of the Victoria Cross, which is like the Medal of Honor.
Yeah.
For the defense of Rorke's Drift. Let's see. He was born in Versailles, France. Let's see. No, he is just, that's his name.
Okay. Yeah, this is played by Michael Caine, who's like the only person I know in this entire movie. So.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, it's the last living person of this movie.
Last man standing, essentially. I mean, unless I could have gone through the whole cast and maybe there was a guy who was 15 when he was in this, but I don't think so. The people you remember, because there's basically like 4 standout guys in this cast.
Yeah.
On the 2 main stars, so.
Well, I would have given, that she's Swedish. I would have given Margareta hope that she might have outlived Michael Caine, but I guess not.
No, she actually died when she was very young, 53.
Huh, okay.
Of bone cancer in Vienna.
Hmm.
A lot of these people died in their 50s and 40s. It's really sad. And it was cancer and just stuff, just drinking stuff, smoking stuff.
Bromhead's like trying to shoot a cheetah, and he
Yeah.
misses. um, so then we cut to there's more work on the bridge. Bromhead comes by. He comes back on his horse. He's like walking across like the where like the waterfall kind of happens. It's only like a 3 foot waterfall, but it's very good. It's very good how it's framed here. But it's also it's like totally framed up as like he's kind of like posh and above everybody else. And then like you know Bromhead or not Brom Chard has like his coat off, and he's just like working with the guys, like trying to catch this loose bridge, panel that they got to put in the bridge. Um,
Yeah, they're still wearing the what we would call red coat regalia.
yes.
I did some research though. I guess the uniforms that they had were they were better balanced for the South African climate than what we would think.
Yeah.
Because at this point they were like woven cotton, not just the thick wool uniforms,
Okay.
but they still looked very still that Napoleonic era uniforms kind
Yeah.
of, but they were actually these were more cotton, like what do they call them, cotton basar or something. They were more flowy
Okay.
because they learned from like being in the desert and stuff. Like you can't do the wool uniform, do the weird red and white. Which everyone was like, that's foolish because you can see that from a mile away, but it's they were thinking camouflage then.
No, they got to show force. We're here.
Mass troop firing was the most effective way to do that. But yeah, so these uniforms weren't quite the dastardly wool uniforms that of antiquity. They were more cotton, but they'd still be hotter than hell in that climate.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing people always said. I've been going down this weird jag of Australian and Australian arsonists. Do you know the most destructive arsonists in history have all been Australia?
No.
Yeah, because they describe Australia as a land meant to burn. All the white settlers of Australia and South Africa, because they basically all came from the same areas, they always said about both those countries they were a place meant to burn. And they even talk about it in this movie. Because when the guy's like pulling the soil out of the ground, the Welsh guy who's a thick accent, he's like, there's no moisture in this soil. Everything in this country's dry as a match. And, he was just like, and I've heard the same thing about Australia. It's like, yeah, because eucalyptus, when it dries out, it's like a bunch of matches just sitting on the ground. Yeah, there's people in Australia that have started fires and like 200 people died because it just burned the whole damn city down. It's crazy. I don't know how I got down that rabbit hole, but yeah, said it was like a land meant to burn. It was like South Africans said the same thing. It's like this is just it is meant to just burn constantly.
Yeah, which is weird because like it's weird that they say like the soil is dry and stuff like that because it's very green.
Yeah.
So
I think they have more water in South Africa than they do in Australia.
Yeah.
So I know Australia, the only place it's green is the perimeter. Like everything else is a moonscape. So never been there, but
Bromhead seems perturbed that his idle men were used to build a bridge, but this also brings into question, like, where the hell did Chard come from? Like, he doesn't seem to have his own men. He just appeared out of nowhere and started building a bridge, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So,
I had a writ from Her Majesty.
Chard talks with a member of like their regiment choir, which is just fun. Where it's like, who's that guy? I was like, oh, he's my baritone.
He's got a beautiful voice. He does. Yeah, this is all like deep Welsh stuff.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the song they sing later.
Yeah.
There is a Welsh and English version of it, and I listened to the Welsh version on YouTube, and it's like, that still sounds cool. I have no idea what they're saying. It sounds like they mean it. That's
Chard sees some horses moving off in the distance, and he like gathers them in, which I thought at first like these were like Zulu on horses, but like none of the Zulu use horses in this movie. No. This is like the Dutch settler people that are trying to steal farms from the Zulu people, and then and they're helping the British people. Because it's like what Haddonfeld or what's that guy's? No, Haddendorf. Yeah, Haddendorf.
Yeah, the guy that was a real guy too, Gert Adendorf. He was an Afrikaner. Remember I called? They had that what they called the native contingent.
Yeah.
He was like a leader in that. He was an Afrikaner
Yeah.
essentially. And remember that they fought a war against those guys because the British when they took over South Africa. So he was at the battle. One of the guys that survived the earlier battle at Islandwana, and he was there, and a bunch of the other guys were there to. Um, oh, what was the? Yeah, they were basically saying, yeah, the Zulus are coming,
Yeah.
and then of course they're like, "Well, are you going to help us?" It's like, no, they're going to kill everyone. We're not going to stick around here.
So yeah, Chard is like packing up people that are outside the perimeter of like the building. Well, it really isn't a perimeter yet; they have to build it. And so yeah, but he's like bringing them in closer. He's like, yeah, something's gonna happen, so we gotta bring it in. Which he's telling like the cook, like, yeah, dump the soup on the on the fire. Which I don't know. Like, man, can't they carry those soup buckets like 200 feet and just like leave them out? I don't know.
I don't think they wanted the fires going because they said the Zulus will just burn us out of here.
Yeah.
I think they wanted the fires, like the coals, gone.
Doused. Yeah, there's a scout who's returned with news of the dead British regiment and like how the Zulu are on the way. Bromhead apparently has orders to hold their ground, so they're going to do that. We have the Wits return. These are the Swedish missionaries, and so this is a church that they've built here, or it's already existing. I'm not sure, but yeah, lots of missionary work in Africa. We're going to convert these Zulus.
It was originally it was from the Swedish church. It was built there. These were just the tenants of it. It had been built, but they kind of the mission guys rotated in and out.
Okay.
The real people.
Chard and Broadhead like squabble about who's in charge and who's more suited to command.
Which is kind of interesting in this movie because usually in American movies that would just break down into a dick measuring contest, but these guys kind of just play wordsmith the whole time.
Yeah.
It's I say, old boy, when did you get your commission? And they just name dates.
Yeah.
And it turns out that essentially Michael Caine's character has like a month more or something. It's like,
no, I think Chard has like 3 months on him,
or 3 months or something. Yeah, you'd think it was years though.
Yeah. But then like Bromhead is insisting like he comes from like generals, so like he's more suited to this.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because like at first
the actual John Chard was in the Royal Engineers.
Yeah.
That was his thing. Like he built fortifications and stuff. Like he was not like a combat guy.
Yeah.
But in terms of this time and land, I mean, it's like, well, experience matters, but essentially there's a handful of tactics. You just have to know when to implement them.
Yeah.
It's not like one of these guys is special forces and the other guy builds latrines.
Yeah,
it's like
they're not gonna reinvent the wheel. They need to tell the soldiers the things they already know. It's just how you coordinate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's interesting because like you think like the whole time that like, oh, Bromhead's gonna be a coward, and then he's gonna be let down by thinking that his family lineage is just gonna come to him and he'll be naturally good at this, but then they'll like, end up sucking at it. But then he actually just like comes around like rather quickly. It's like, well, I gotta survive, and then Chard's like, hey, gather a platoon together, and when I tell you, like, charge at these guys, and like, yeah, I'll just do that. Yep, let's do this.
Yeah, they put their differences aside, which actually seems like more realistic in the real world. It was like once the dying starts, it's like we'll settle this later. We got to first, then we can pull them out and measure them. But yeah, that's not.
And when they see how like overwhelmed they are, and like, they have a bunch of ammo, but it's still only so much you can do.
Yeah,
like it. And this guy's an engineer, so this does become an engineering problem of like, how do we fortify this location with only like 125 guys against 4,000 people. Then we cut to like the doctor or something. He's like looking over the soldier and like Hook accused of malingering. The doctor like lances something in his back or whatever. Like just like, well, if you're sick, let's bleed you some. I'm not sure what the hell's going on here. I'm not sure if you picked up on that, Nathan.
Yeah, I don't. There was always a thing about boils and draining boils
Okay.
and draining cysts and then packing it with cotton.
Okay.
Um, and they did have germ theory by then, but they didn't have antibiotics. So
Okay.
I don't know if creating a cavity in your body of pus and then packing it full of like cotton and or gunpowder or whatever, and then it's like get back in the fight, you know. But
I
the
mean, they
doc,
constantly have the surgeon just like poking holes in people, and nobody seems to survive or whatever.
yeah, you're like I said, you're about 20 years away from like, did he get shot in the leg? Cut his leg off. You know, that
Yeah.
was like kind of what happened.
Oh, have you watched The Pit yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Never mind. There's some strange new things I don't know if they exist to happen in there. There's like this zip gun that will start an IV that's like basically a drill.
Okay.
And there's a bit where this guy like starts to use it on somebody, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! What the fuck are you doing?" It's like he said to zip or everyone that comes in here. He's like, "Yeah, unconscious people," because it's like a zip. It's like a drill meant to create an IV for an unconscious person really
Oh
quickly.
God, just don't go into people's arms. Yep, the guy who's Surgeon Colonel James Henry Reynolds, who interesting. The real guy was an Irishman.
Hmm.
So yeah, and he did fight at Rourke's Drift. He was
Uh,
actually credited with saving a lot of people under bad circumstances there. So whatever medieval stuff he was doing must have worked.
yeah. I mean, of course, you know the portrayals in this movie could be completely off. As I
Yeah,
heard, one trivia is the the elderly daughters of Hook walked out of this movie because like he wasn't a drunk, he was a hero. Or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But
They had to
that doesn't
create.
make an interesting character. He's like one of the most interesting characters in the movie. So
Well, yeah, his redemptive arc is actually good. It's
yes.
like in the end, he becomes like he's standing on the line shooting with everyone else when all he wanted to do was hang out and get his boils lanced by Dr. Fun.
Mr. Wet says there's 4,000 Zulu headed their way. Um, Chard orders the sick and wounded to be armed for the coming attack. And then Windridge. Oh, wait, Windridge? Who the hell's Windridge? Oh, is he like the sergeant? Yeah. Oh, this is like the strong sergeant or something. Is this? I can't remember.
It's
There's.
Color Sergeant Frank Bourne. It's the guy with the cool mutton chops that's always very calm.
Yeah. So is he the same as a strong guy, or is it the same
No,
character?
that's a different sergeant. That's Sergeant Maxfield, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, Color Sergeant Bourne is like, oh, what would I don't know. You would know these ranks, but he's like be like the equivalent of a senior NCO. Like
Yeah.
he's a long-serving sergeant in the British Army.
I know sometimes there's like a billet that's not like a rank that like I haven't seen used before, but it's used to be a thing called a top sergeant, where it's basically like the leader of the enlisted people in a group.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, this guy would be. I'm not sure. I think he's actually just a sergeant. Like he's got three um, chevrons on his coat, so he's just a sergeant. But he must be like the most senior sergeant of the group. But
Yeah, the guy with the mutton chops is like the third popular character in this movie
yeah.
because he's like the quiet sergeant, but he's the best killer. Whenever he shows up, like he's gonna kill 3 or 4 people
Yeah.
and pull guys out of trouble, but he's always like, "Are you okay, lad?" You know, he's like he's never.
Oh yeah, the guy who's like looking after the calf or whatever. That dude.
No. That's one of the Welshmen.
Oh okay, okay.
No, Color Sergeant Bourne is the guy who quotes the Bible to the pastor later.
Oh, who's the guy like reading names at the end? Is that the same guy?
Yeah, it's the same
Okay,
guy. That's,
okay, we're okay. We're talking about the same guy. Okay.
yeah. No, the
So,
strong sergeant is like Maxfield. He's
okay.
like more of like a regimental leader or something
Okay.
like that. Or
But yeah, like the color sergeant's always like the guy kind of keeping everybody in order. Like when
yeah.
everything gets quiet, he just like men keep working. Which like I hear that's like so there's a job and there's a production assistant job. I think it's just production assistant. Basically, when you see somebody corralling cats on a film set, it's a production assistant. or I can't remember. It might have a more official name. I forget. If there's usually the first credit you see as soon as credits come up on a movie is like the production assistant because of all the shit they have to deal with. That they're like, all right, let's give them a billing, okay, like put it up front. And it's usually said that they prefer to hire British people for these roles because Americans are less likely to get insulted by being ordered around by British people.
Oh, okay.
They don't take it like personally. It's like, oh yeah, that's an order, I guess. Yeah, we need to do this, whatever. But if it's an American, it's like, it's like a choice. It's like,
Yeah.
why the fuck are you telling me to do?
Are you challenging my honor?
um. So yeah, they grab a couple of guys to go watch the hills. I think they grab. This is where they grab like one of the choir guys, or they're both choir guys. I can't remember.
I think they're both choir guys.
They'd be good at yelling through the hills.
Yeah.
So that would be in the Act 1. We got Act 2. The scout guy, or this is like, this is weird because like this guy is not listed in the credits. The guy who plays Haddendorf.
Yeah.
Or yeah, I think it's Haddendorf. He's got like the black uniform. He's like you said, he's like the Afrikaans or whatever. And you said this guy was at the other battle, so.
Yeah, Gert Attendorf. Yeah, he's as part of like the African.
Attendorf starts with an A. Okay.
It's like ADEN.
Okay.
EOR. It's very. Where are the South Africans besides the British contingent? They're from the Dutch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's that one guy they called Dutch, but he's actually like Swedish because they're just assuming that everybody here is either Dutch or British. Or Welsh, whatever.
Yeah, so he's the equivalent of what we'd call like a militia, like a national guard in the Afrikaner force, but he's not a native. I mean, he is technically.
Yeah, he's here to steal the land. So.
Yeah. He's a white Afrikaner versus like native, like an African guy.
I hear he draws out the attack strategy of the Zulu and the sand. He calls it the buffalo head attack strategy. So it's basically like a pincer movement where you attack from both sides and then you can close or whatever. A bunch of feints and stuff like that, which that's really cool. This isn't just a mass of people being thrown at like us British force. It is like, tactics.
Yeah.
I think this is also where he talks about like, like really the fearfulness of the Zulu people is like, hey, these are 4,000 guys. They can run 15 miles or 50 miles in a day, like running, like just 4,000 people running to your location. It's like,
then fight. They will run 50 miles, fight you.
Yeah, they're not resting. No, yeah, it's the fight. Which I think they also portrayed that in that one, not a great movie, but a good title for a movie, Tears of the Sun.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, we got to get these people out of here. And then, like, overnight, like, they're being surrounded because, like, the force just dropped everything but their guns and just, like, ran in the woods at night. It's like, that's frightening.
Yeah, that's scary. Run through the jungles. Like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to, like, let's have breakfast first. Nope, they're just going to get right into killing. Yeah. You don't want to mess with people like that.
Somehow didn't roll an ankle.
Yeah, nobody twisted an ankle. There's not even wearing shoes. Slapping feet on roots. Like, no problem. It's like, yeah, we screwed up. That's why we invented napalm.
Bromhead wants to mount an attack, but then Chard's like, no, we need the men to start fortifying the church for an attack. I should know. I guess either strategy would have worked, but that's not the strategy here. It's a turtle strategy, which is always fun, because for people who poorly play or funly play real-time strategy games. That's like, I want to build the biggest fort and send my assault blobs everywhere. Rather than how people actually play those games where it's all about having something built in a certain pattern and then sending 8 guys first and it kills the other team. It's like, this isn't fun. So,
I want to build victory fleets and dominate the field.
Yeah.
Top of the tech tree.
Yeah. 'Cause, So the men start fortifying the church for the attack. Otto's incensed that this and goes off to sneak a couple of shots of booze. It's like as this place is being turned into like a fort. Then he starts praying, and then some troops come in to grab like bags out of storage, like to use as like perimeter, like basically like sandbags. It's like this is full of corn. I think it's revealed at one point, but this is like I don't know. I guess must all just be corn. So
Yeah, I'm guessing it's like dried corn and grain of some kind.
these are huge bags though, so I don't know.
Yeah, those are big. Those guys. There's some of those guys carrying them two at a time. It's like those must be some tough dudes. Their knees are in really good shape.
Margaretta's tending to the sick. Hook is like creeping on her. A soldier starts like stabbing a hole in the wall. It's like what are they doing? And it's like let's learn for that, just a hole in the wall to stick your rifle through. So I was like, oh, okay. But I was like, man, that building sucks if you can just like stab through it with a bayonet. But
Yeah. Basically, what's that call that? What's that called? Plasterboard. Yeah, that's
Okay.
essentially what it's made out of.
Hook was apparently a thief, and that's why that's why he's in the army. He got caught apparently and conscripted in the army. So, the sergeant passes out, giving orders to Hook, and then Hook picks him up and puts him in the bed. So it's like this weird duo here of like this guy's trying to control me and he's sick. It's like this.
Yeah, the sergeant's always like the sixth sergeant is always yelling out like formation orders and stuff.
Yeah.
In his delirium,
Yeah, because like he says he's a cripple, but he's like clearly sweating, so it's like he's got some sort of fever or something going on. So, of course, in those days there could be all sorts of things that people.
Yeah, no idea.
Margareta goes to the next med bay. Like there's giving out rifles. There's more digging holes in the wall. There's a Swiss guy being called Dutchy. And then there's like these two guys that are calling each other by numbers, and this where they talk about how like a large portion of this force is Welsh, and how everybody in apparently Wales is named George, and so the only way they identify them is by like their whatever
prefix number.
Yeah,
it's very Clone Wars. It's like 216 George.
Yeah.
416 George. It's like okay.
Which we never had. We never had any of that stuff in the military, but it was always fun when you got to the Miller, because there was always going to be like 5 Millers in every group. So it'd be like Miller I, Miller J, Miller Sergeant type, Miller Corporal type.
It's like Smith or Jones or something. Yeah. It's just a dozen guys named.
Well, my joke was always there's always a no, what was it? No, now I'm forgetting it. There's always a Nguyen, a Miller, and a Garcia.
Yep.
Because everywhere I went, there's always at least one or two Asian guys, and one of them was named Nguyen.
Yep.
There's always a Miller. There's a white Miller and a black Miller. And then there was always a Garcia.
You want to know what's weird here? What I've ran into at work a lot. Go see Mohammed. It's huh? Because some people that is a first name, some people that is a last name.
Yeah.
And you've got to like, you don't want to make it sound like you're being completely racist. Like which one? It's like the one with So it's always. But yeah, that's just like a super common name around here now.
Yeah.
And because black people have it, Arabic people have it, and it's like, okay, who am I seeing? You got to see Muhammad. It's like there's like 5 dudes named that. First or last name? Give me something here.
The Swiss guy talks about how a Zulu regiment can run 50 miles a day. Okay, so this guy always says that. He also has like he has like a foot injury or something, but he's always hopping around getting into the action in this.
Yeah, he's got like a crutch.
Yeah.
And then he just one hand's a rifle.
Margareta gets her blouse ripped open by one of the sick guys, gets handsy with her, which he probably has delirium or something like that, or he's just a creep, whatever. So.
Yeah. He's just a Japanese subway creep. Yeah.
So she runs off, and then we have the cavalry literally arrives. And they stop to basically tell them that the Zulu are coming and they're gonna leave rather than stay and die. So because Chard's like, hey, go hide in that hill and we'll call you to like for a counterattack. And they're like, no, we're gone, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
all right.
It's just essentially a bunch of like, I don't know, was that part of the group that was that like an organized cavalry militia, or were those just a bunch of farmers? I never was clear on that.
Probably both. I
Okay.
mean, they did call them farmers, but they're clearly like an organized militia guys. But then also they say this thing like, you know what Zulu do to cavalry, don't you? And we don't know, and they don't say. So I
Yeah.
guess it was horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to be riding a horse into a sea of those spears. I can tell you, take out the horse really fast.
Yeah.
And if you crush someone or something, they're gonna stick 100 of those spears in you.
A quiet kind of takes over the scene as like they watch their support ride off. Mr. Witt convinces the Africans to leave and go in peace because that's what he's like. No, we don't have to die. We can do this peacefully. And then, of course, nobody listens to him except for these African guys here. They, it's like, yeah, we're not staying around to get massacred by our own people. That's cool.
Seems like when he invokes the name of God or whatever, those guys start looking at each other and nodding, and they just take off. They actually made the right choice. I mean, unless they got captured by the Zulus and murdered later, I don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what happens to people, but it doesn't seem like it seems like kind of like a Genghis Khan thing where it's like, oh, if you don't fight with us, yeah, you can just pass through and go on. It's only the people that are resisting us we're interested in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope they didn't all get killed.
Mr. Witt asks for wagons to take the sick away, but they don't grant it. Actually, no, the troops go to move the wagons, which is Mr. Witt's happy at first, and then they just roll them over as cover. So
yeah. He's very angry. Chard's like, you want wagons? We'll give you wagons. And they just start pushing them. And they just stand them up on their sides, which would take probably twice the number of men. Wagons in real life were super heavy.
Then we have cut to some time with the scouts. Here they say the soil doesn't have water and can't hold a man in his grave is the term they use.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing there's just a lot of erosion going on here or something. So.
Yep. What's the say? They have like dark sayings in South Africa too. It's like no valleys without shadows, no hills without gravestones. Nice things like that they say.
Then we hear some marching off in the distance where they compare this to a train.
Yeah, and it does sound like one too, the way they designed the sound.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's indicative of like how it actually sounded in the real thing, or if that was just kind of a cool, kind of ominous sound design they came up with.
Probably done for the movie, but I like it.
Yeah. There's thousands of Zulu to the southwest. A trumpet signals all the troops to gather their rifles because like nobody, like, they're building the wall, and then like all their rifles are like held up together in like tripods, and they run to all grab their rifles.
It's very bad trigger discipline with these guys. Just grabbing it right around the trigger, pointing them at each other. I don't think they were issued bullets yet, though, so probably they weren't loaded.
Yeah.
No, it's a bad habit.
They hear marching in the distance again. They hear they're comparing train and sound of a train. Bromhead gives the order to attach bayonets, so they do that.
That's never an order you want to hear. This is going to get really bad.
I remember I think they did that in Band of Brothers. I think they were assaulting like a trench line or something, and they attached bayonets, and that was like the last time that was an order for attached bayonets was ever given in the military or the U.S. military. I think something like that. I don't know.
Well, didn't the Marines use them to great effect in the Korean War, which is why you guys kept them kind of as an
maybe, yeah.
Because I think
we still have them, yeah.
When they ran out of bullets, they were like, we can just go around at night. And I think, was it the Battle of the Korengal Valley? It's just, yeah, we put bayonets on. We're behind the lines now. They've overrun us. They're just going to kill us. Let's just put bayonets on and kill as many of these guys in the dark as we can because it doesn't make any noise.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they lived through it, and they gave them medals. And I think the reason why they keep the bayonets is just as an honorarium.
Yeah, because
these bayonets, like from this era, they were like this long.
Well, and the rifle's already like 5 feet long, so it's basically a spear.
Yeah.
Whereas like putting a bayonet on M16, it's like, I mean, you get 3 feet of extra. Like, it's better than nothing. I'd rather have that than just a knife. So,
Or the AK-47s had the fold out ones.
oh, the SKS.
Or yeah, some of them did. Yeah.
Yeah, that one flips open. That's always cool.
Yeah. That's more like this, where it's kind of
Yes.
a built-in unit, but yeah.
Um. Yeah, I wonder if that new like Sig Spear rifle has a bayonet attachment lug on it. It'd probably have to. Just
Just to be cool.
yeah. Um. Yeah, I think I was looking for bayonets for my Garand, and it was like you're getting something from China or something authentic is crazy expensive. Like, you know what? It's all right. I don't need that. So, I figured somebody would have a surplus of them, and like, hey, you could just get that, but it wasn't that easy. So, we see the Zulu gather at the top of the ridge with shields. They stretch the horizon, which is always cool. Because yeah, it seems like this movie's like shot in almost like extra widescreen or something like that. So it really shows off like, how many people are in a scene.
Yeah.
Uh, there's like a first wave of Zulu like sneak into position and lay down. They advance again, and then the order is given to the British to load rifles. And then the Zulu like make like cacophonous echoes and banging on their shields, which is always like neat. It's like how they do it, and like, it's always in sync. So
Right.
it's always nice, and because like whenever you do it in sync, it just makes it louder and more impressive. So here, they're just trying to, it's a fear tactic. Um, the Zulu make their charge. The British like fire volleys at the Zulu, and the Zulu are getting decimated, but they just sit there and take it. Like, they just keep backing up and keep moving forward. And then a Zulu general like gives an order to retreat, and then Adendorf explains that the Zulu are like counting their rifles and determining their firepower. So it's like, oh wow, they're just wasting people's lives just to count rifle fire. It's like, that's pretty crazy, but like, they don't have a lot of technology, but they have tactics. So. Cut to Mr. Witt is drunk and singing. There's like a young soldier that he's like basically telling him he's gonna die, so he's kind of like, should I listen to this guy? So they go to send him away, and so Margareta joins him, so they send him off, and so they're done for the rest of the movie. But Mr. Witt drunkenly screams that they're all going to die.
Well, there was an earlier scene that comes back later too, when Witt and the color sergeant are talking when they're in the supply room.
Yeah.
This is before Witt gets drunk, and he was like asking the sergeant, "Is like, are you a man of God?" And he's like, and the sergeant has a really cool accent too. I don't know where he's from, but it's some kind of British accent. He's like, "Oh, my father was a lay pastor," and the pastor's all excited. And he's like, he's like, "Give me a psalm," It's like, "Oh yeah, he maketh the wars to cease until the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire. Be still and know that I am God, and I will be exalted among the heathen, and I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge." And like the pastor's really excited. He's like, do you see, Sergeant? Do you see the truth in it? And he's like, yep. It's just like, got to fill these bags. Like, it doesn't. He's obviously like, the sergeant just thinks it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense what they're saying. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna stand amongst the heathen. Make God will in this war, and if He does, great. But if not, we got bags to fill. So.
Rifles load, bags to fill.
Yep.
So yeah. Then this color sergeant says like, "All right, back to your post." As like, they're haunted. Like, well, I guess we're all gonna die. The Zulu watch the Wits leave. So like, this shows that they have like the fort, the fort's flanked by them. Chard has shaky hands trying to reload his revolver. There's a call out of the Zulu attacking again. The Zulu do a feint and like draw the fire and attention, and then a bunch of Zulu like armed with rifles like quietly move in mass.
Yeah.
Um,
like crawling along the ground.
yeah.
Scary. Like they look like ants. There's so many. Like, this is weird.
Chard sees they're surrounded and they move to like reinforce the north wall. And then some Zulus sit atop a hill and like take aim with rifles. The British start taking shots from the hills. Which at first, like, they just hear their own rifles, so they're like confused, like, hey, are our own guys shooting at us? Like, nope, just the dead one's rifles. So the Zulus are very bad shots, so but it's understandable. Like they just picked up these things like 3 hours ago. So
Yeah. Yeah, if you hand anyone just a weapon, even if they're familiar with how like these are supposed to work, they're not going to be good with it.
um but yeah, they're not good shots, but eventually they just start hitting the British, which they have some weird kills here.
Yeah.
There's like the one guy gets shot and the other guy grabs him, and then that guy gets shot, and then they like fall over like like it's supposed to be like almost like a comically like are they gay thing or something like that.
Yeah.
And then one guy just gets shot and killed, and then that's just kind of it for them being shot and killed.
Yeah, I think the guy that gets shot and killed is like the corporal.
Okay.
Who's like because he kind of leads the men, smaller groups of men, and he's kind of a serious. He seems like kind of a serious, hard ass guy, but when the fighting starts, he's like, "Okay, men, keep your rifles up." Like he sort of becomes like a more understandable guy.
Yeah.
Like this is why I was an asshole for you together, so we don't die doing this. And then he gets killed, like throwing himself on top of the other guy who got shot, like trying to pull him down. So it's sort of sad because he's like telling him, because he's like, "Can I unbutton my tunic now, corporal?" And the corporal reaches up and tries to like unbutton his tunic because he was always on the guy about having his tunic buttoned.
Okay, yeah.
And he's like trying to unbutton it, and then he just lays on his lap, and it's kind of a weird scene. Then you realize, oh, he's dead, but the guy whose tunic he was he lives. He's just wounded. So it's like it's sort of a sad moment. It was like, yeah, let me get that for you. He just out and dies. It's like, oh, that's sort of awful.
I can't remember. Is this the guy who's like he couldn't see, so he took off his helmet and he stood on top of the bags to shoot them?
Yeah.
He's like, "Get down from there, you idiots!"
That was exactly the guy he was trying to like. Yeah, because they have those strange helmets that they wore. This end of the Napoleonic era type uniforms, where you have helmets that just make you more of a target. Not stopping bullets, so even modern helmets don't stop bullets, but
no. I mean, they're yeah, because so what is it again? Yeah, we have it, call it flak and Kevlar. That's what we called our helmets and our wait, which was which? Now I can't remember. Do we call our helmets Kevlar? Anyways, it's meant for
because Kevlar is body armor, and I've heard helmets called flak helmets before.
Yeah, it's meant for
it's not the indirect stuff, right?
Yes, it's for artillery strikes and stuff like that. So it's not for a bullet coming at you. It's not going to stop that, but it's like indirect shrapnel from artillery fire. You might survive it. Do you have a better shot than nothing? So
I always heard that the Russians actually played around with a bullet stopping helmet.
Yeah.
But they found out it was the same thing as the ceramic plates that they were issuing to American soldiers. Like it was too big, too heavy, and they just take it out and set it aside.
Yeah.
Couldn't function in any environment where it was above 70 degrees. Like, yeah, we're not. Guess who's not putting in his ceramic plate? Or his, I forget what the helmets were made out of. They had them on YouTube. Guys were shooting them with guns, and it's like, yeah, it'd stop a bullet, but your brain would bounce off your skull. Be just you wouldn't be dead, but you'd have a serious concussion. So, yeah, helmets are always a weird thing to see. It's like it looks good when guys are marching in a group, but especially helmets this era.
And there's that sad, ironic scene in Saving Private Ryan where the guy gets a bullet that glances off his helmet, and he takes his helmet off to look at it and goes, "Hey!" and then just takes a headshot.
Yeah. There was a lot of that Normandy beach Saving Private Ryan. That's still nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
When he's trying to pull the guy back and he brings him back and like half his head's gone. He's like, God damn. He's dragging this guy around like, I'm going to save him. And his head's completely blown off. Yeah, that's a nightmare. This movie not so intense, but well, I don't know, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah, but there's not body parts in this movie, so.
yeah. It's not like open intestine type stuff here.
I mean, there is like kind of like I thought. Well, I thought this was like rated G or something, but like how it's stated in our movie database is not or no rated.
Yeah, not young children, sir.
um. There's a Zulu charge comes. The Zulus start getting over the wall. Bayonets versus short spears coming on here. So it's like the British are holding their own, but they eventually just get taken on. And also the spears can be deployed as like a short throwing weapon too. So that gets used as well. It's not always just hand to hand. So like they'll toss one too.
And the ones I saw made to on the I think it was Forge and Fire or whatever, they were made to spec. They're heavy, and when you throw them as spears, like they're going to go through a guy no problem.
Huh.
I mean, it's actually an ingeniously effective weapon for close quarters. There's nothing. The only thing more devastating would be like maybe like a combat knife.
Yeah.
But considering what the Zulu had to work with and the kind of traditional weapons they made, they're wildly effective.
Huh.
Because you can hold that thing with two hands and just go in with it. Like
Yeah.
they're evil. Deal with one of those things. Bayonet gave you a nice distance because you don't want one of those guys coming in close because they are gonna open you up like a hog.
Bromhead takes his platoon to reinforce. So this is where like Bromhead was to grab a bunch of people and they just kind of stand and wait, and then they get deployed strategically.
Yeah.
The Swiss guy makes his way out to fight the Zulu. Chard fights with a couple of Zulu. Chard gets knocked down, but like the Swiss guy keeps him from being stabbed to death. He takes like a neck wound that like really like knocks him for a loop for like 20 minutes of the movie. This is where like Bromhead kind of comes into his own. Yeah, Bromhead goes to Chard and gets him help. And then Bromhead takes charge. Chard walks into the makeshift med bay. The doc damns Chard. He's like, "Damn you, Chard!" And then one of the soldiers dies as he's like cutting holes in him or something. So, the Zulu call a retreat. Bromhead and Adendorf like try to analyze the Zulus' tactics. Then the Zulus are attacking the south wall, so they got to reinforce that. Which they're skeptical. Is like, is this the trap? What trap are we moving into? So, the trick is we can't reinforce everywhere. So, then like the cook and there's another guy that are like distributing ammo, which is fun. They have to like unseal the ammo, and it's like a yogurt, like container or something. Got a foil thing on top to keep the moisture out, and there's just a bunch of individual bullets in there. Just start handing pockets full of bullets out to people.
Yeah, they just lay them up on the ramparts because they have to load the guns one at a time.
Yeah, it's got a lever action that'll pop the bullet out, but then you got to put one in back in.
Yeah.
So it's just one at a time. But infinitely more effective than having to load a powder charge and slam a bullet in there and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, this is essentially like a single shot repeating rifle versus like a ball, loose powder and ball nonsense. It's like, those are devastating, but the whole 1 minute load time is, dude, that's you can do this about as fast as you can lever a gun if you're good. And if you're scared, you can probably do it a hell of a lot faster. You're going to take a spear to the neck. It's like, how fast. Interesting. We learned about that technique of sealing though in remember when we read the endurance, the shack thing. Okay, yeah, that's like lead. That's like lead and tin.
Okay.
So what they do is they cut out a shape that's roughly the size of the opening of that, and it's like a foil, and then they take like a heated iron and they just melt lead around it to seal it up.
Huh.
These guys are just handling like raw. That's why people were in the infirmary screaming with random sicknesses. It's like they live in a world made out of lead. That's only interesting because in the Shackleton book, you learn like that was their food. And they basically sealed like grapes in a jar with like melting lead. Nothing's going to grow in it. You will not get sick from it.
Yeah.
from like bacteria or whatever. It's the ingesting or the lead byproducts from heating it up.
Uh, oh yeah, but yeah, like the cook gets speared distributing ammo. Then the other guy gets speared too. But I think somebody grabs him and drags him away. Because are these
Yeah.
guys like in black uniforms? Are kind of like assistants or something, but I'm not sure. Like,
What are those? I think those were like South African volunteers or
okay,
something.
all right,
I'm not sure exactly what, because I know like in this war, like the things I read about it, like there's the mainline British Army, which would be
yeah,
like the U.S. Army, and then you have these contingent support forces
yeah,
that would be like local volunteers, local militia, and then like some of those guys seemed like British, but they were like support troops.
yeah.
Which what was that? What were those people were called? Like the Royal, the ones that worked for the British Army were like the Royal. We'd call it logistics nowadays.
Yeah, yeah,
Because like yeah, because even in like modern armies, like logistics guys fight and are trained with weapons. These guys did too, but it wasn't their main duty.
yeah, yeah.
They were there to like we're vittlers is what they used to call them. We're gonna make food. We're gonna prepare things. We're gonna help the wounded. And if our backs are to the wall, we're gonna start shooting people also. But I don't think they were nearly as well trained as like the regular British troops.
Yeah,
Because there were conscientious objectors and people who didn't want to kill
yeah.
back.
Whatever a merchant marine is.
Yeah, kind of. Which is every other guy in the model club that I'm in. What did you do? For a long time, I was a merchant marine. What is that? Well, I sailed on ships and supplied like the U.S. military around the world. Were you in the military? No. I was in the Navy and then I joined the Merchant Marine. I have wild stories to tell you about the South China Sea. It's like, you ever seen the ocean turn into a mountain? It's like, no, I don't want to.
Then a couple of wounded guys like take over the duty of distributing ammo, which it's like which is just supposed to show their bravery and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Remember, these aren't the good guys. These are the guys you have to relate with.
These were the malingerers or the mental patients.
Yeah,
or,
well, I just meant the whole British Army in general, but yes, that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like, I have to like remind myself every time there's like a brave action here. It's like, yeah, it wasn't really meant for anything good. It's just like the circumstances they were set in. So, but there's that lull in the fighting. Chard is like patched back up, and so he's back in charge. He redistributes manpower. There's another Zulu charge. The British have like they kind of do their own feint tactic where they like hold the wall and then retreat. And then so the Zulu kind of like are filtered in, and this is where they do like their platoon like rank fire, where it's like one rank fire,
yeah,
which it's really cool here because it's like that seems wildly effective. Why aren't you doing that the whole time? But it's like it's more of a funnel thing here. That's why that works so well here.
Well, yeah, because you're not being attacked on all sides.
Yeah,
that's why that works. Because what they do is they don't just sit down and stand up; they advance every time too, which means like, oh, we're tightening the noose every step.
Yeah,
which is insanely brave to do that in the face of literally thousands of even though they're in a bottleneck. It's like that really takes balls to stand there and just load that rifle and then advance with each shot.
Yeah.
And then pray the guy behind you doesn't shoot you in the back of the head because he's not getting nervous.
And everybody should have no hearing by the end of this engagement.
Oh, no. Be writing things on boards that way.
But yeah, this is the first time where it's like it kind of seems like a tactic is used well on the British behalf. Because every time it just seems like they're just firing wildly and crazy, and it's like it still seems like the Zulu are attacking from all sides, so it doesn't seem like they're being necessarily that effective. So here it's like an effective engagement and draw going on. So
yeah, some of the best lines, like where Michael Caine is just yelling out orders, like as a British officer, is some of the initial attacks. He'll be like 100 yards, fire, and they all fire at once, and then after about 3 of those, he's like, "Fire at will." You know, it was basically like, it was like, shouldn't they have been doing this all along?
Yeah.
Because it seems like they can aim these rifles more, because again, they're not using ball and powder, but maybe that's like World War One, like the Taxes didn't catch up with the weapons yet.
Yeah.
But it seems like later on in the movie, it's like, no, they know exactly how to use these weapons. They just have to funnel people into a chute,
Yeah.
and then those guns really, because that's a big, heavy round.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's black powder they're using.
Well, it's not smokeless. We know that because they
Yeah.
fire at the smoke.
So yeah, so they're still in like that era. It's lower velocity, but it's like being hit in the head with a lead fist. So
Yeah.
still devastating. It's just low velocity devastating.
Yeah, and like, again, they're waiting till like 100 yards to fire, so which if you look at the sighting stuff on like even Napoleonic era stuff, like you can sight it out to like 1,400 yards. It's like, or meters. It's like, who's doing that with this thing?
Quigley.
But that's when you had a line of 100 people and you're firing at a box and you all fire at once. That's what volley fire is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're just lobbing that, you're sky hooking that shit in. Hit that far away, aim 4 feet above it. Like, oh.
Let's see here. But yeah, here there's another retreat. I believe it's they fend off another charge. There's an eerie quiet that goes on. Buckets of water are distributed to replenish the men. It's like, oh,
Which
yeah.
With like, these guys should have passed out hours ago.
And again, you don't see any of this with the Zulu. You don't see like eating, reinforcing, drinking water. They're just out there to do their thing, man. So this is their land.
That's what's so scary. That was like that's like all the stuff in like Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
When they're talking, the main character, what's his name? Major Willard is always talking about no R&R for the VC. And cold rat meat and just hate waiting for us in the woods. You're getting drunk, getting soft. It's the same kind of thing. It's like, yeah, the Zulus, no one's passing water out to them. They know how to live in this land.
Charlie don't surf.
Yeah. You guys are wearing big, crazy uniforms in the desert.
So yeah, Chard gives out a design to rebuild the wall, which would make sense because he's an engineer. So, yeah. He wants it like 9 feet tall, and he wants a step for shooting, which
it is funny. Like I think it's the strong sergeant does tell Chard, he's like, the men are tired, and Chard's like, we're all tired. If we don't do this, we're gonna get killed. All right, it's
like, all right, men, back to work.
Fill those bags, men.
There's another Zulu charge because that's what they do. This time they go after the buildings. Like they're crawling on the roof and stuff like that, and like stabbing their way into the roof, which almost like almost zombie like like in comparison, this is before any zombie movie was made.
Very nightmarish though if you're in that building.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, here comes like spearheads through the ceiling. It's not like the ceiling's 30 feet above you. It's like, oh, damn, these guys are.
Yeah, because they're like guys on bunk beds. It's like that's right there. Hook shoots a Zulu, then puts his coat on and starts to like head out. But then Zulu comes through the door, so he goes back to the med bay and barricades himself in. The hay roof is caught on fire from one of the bullets being fired. They dig a hole in the wall.
So reminiscent to me of when I was watching this. I thought this is like from Aliens when the Marines are heading out of the med bay when their defenses have been overwhelmed.
Yeah,
they're just knocking holes in walls and cutting through torches. It's like that's this scene.
Yeah.
Run through the medical department. But it's just Zulu warriors just pouring in through every hole they knock in the wall. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think the thing we're getting at is that we see a lot of blueprints from Zulu, but I don't know if I've ever seen anybody acknowledge Zulu as being like
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because why would I wouldn't just pull that one out of my ass? It's like this is like the guy like game over, man. We got to get out of here. Exactly what that scene, because they're just cutting through walls and stuff, just like these guys are.
Yeah.
And the Zulu are just like stick a gun in their face, pull the trigger, another one replaces it. They're not like, oh, I don't want that to happen to me. No, they got that spear in there. They're just going through the wall.
Yeah, and they're not mourning the dead person next to them. They just keep going. So they start building a hole, digging a hole through the next med bay. They escape to the other med bay. Hook is like the last one fighting the building, but he's guilted into saving. I think, is this Maxfield? Is that the sergeant who's like sickly, or is that a different guy?
What's that guy's name?
I thought I picked up Maxfield, but it's hard to pick up names in this movie. But
yeah, there's a lot of
because I thought you said somebody else was Maxfield.
Sergeant Robert Maxfield.
Okay. So
they're saying he was mentally broken.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, he definitely seems like a shell shock guy. So
yeah, okay. So that's, I thought he had like beriberi or something, but no.
I mean, it could be both.
Yeah.
He could have like gotten a wound, and he's like has a fever because the wound's going bad from infection, and then he's also like was in a terrible firefight, and he's like reliving the nightmare of being in the firefight. So yeah, he goes back to save Maxfield, and then then he like gets like shoved away or something like that, and then the roof falls on Maxfield, and Hook reluctantly leaves. But then he stays back to grab some booze before it just all burns, and like a British soldier like stays behind and says like, he's doing something illegal, and they just like,
what does he say? It's like that's what kind of offense is it? Because he's drinking out of a broken brandy bottle.
He just knocks the neck of it off.
Yeah, he's just drinking out of it, and the guy's like, "That's a stockade offense," and Hook just laughs because the world is on fire around.
Yeah, all this booze is gonna burn up anyways. What do you care?
And it is sad that like the sergeant died, because you think it's like Hook's gonna save his nemesis.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, he actually just gets covered in fire.
Yeah.
Hook would have saved him, even though I didn't like him.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, he dies. It's actually a sad, asshole dying like that is horrible.
Yeah.
So it's terrible.
I mean, he probably died by the impact, so he didn't feel the burning. So
I hope so.
Chard has a group of men retreat back to the inner wall. There's like a cattle stampede that like takes out and hinders some of the Zulu, which I don't know if this was like done on purpose or just pure accident that works in their favor.
Remember the guy who liked the Welsh, the deep voice Welshman who liked the calf?
Yeah, I remember that.
Remember when he went to lock the fence because he had to go?
Yeah.
And the fence, he didn't quite lock, like the bolt or the chain fell off. So this was a happy. It turned out to work out well for the Brits.
Okay. So nobody did this intentionally. Okay.
No. Cattle got spooked, and again, like I said, they're as big as pickup trucks and dumb as a sack of hammers, and they're just gonna crush you. So yeah.
So that being the end of Act 2, which we're about like 2 hours in this movie. It's a pretty long movie for like a movie that has like 2 locations.
And it doesn't seem like you've been watching it that long, too.
No.
Because it's almost the action in this is like the movie 300.
Yeah.
Like battle, bigger battle, smaller battle, bigger battle, final battle. And it's like, oh, this was 3 hours long. I had no idea. Oh, okay, that was cool.
So Act 3, it's night and the church is burning down. There's a night charge with like combined arms from the Zulu, so they're using spears and rifles at night.
Yeah,
but it seems to be more of a test thing. They're not like committed to this charge. And eventually dawn happens, which is it's pretty cool because it kind of like it slowly happens, and then and all of a sudden there's a quiet. And like first it's dawn. It's like a break.
First, like the building burns all night.
Yeah.
And everyone's staring at it. It's a really cool, like staring at a fire scene, counter scene, reaction scene.
Yeah.
Where it's like everyone knows, like this is it. We are done.
Yeah.
We're gonna die here. There's no way. all the troops, even the commanders are like, yeah, this is not looking good. uh,
But there's
we're essentially fighting for a burnt hole in the ground.
yeah. What are we protecting? But like, there's nowhere to retreat either. They're surrounded. So, I mean, I guess they could retreat. They could go where the width went, but
I think the Zulus would run him down and kill him.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
They just die tired.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a crack of dawn. There's men that are like standing asleep at the wall, which is just kind of fun, but like totally like, understandable. Like they're
Yeah.
tired and stuff. Chard goes to wake them in, and he gives some orders to like, hey, go to sleep. And he's like, I can sleep, and so he's like, oh, okay. So, but then like, was Bromhead's kind of pissed? Is like, because this is the color sergeant's there. Is like, why didn't you keep me awake? It's like, well, we're both sleeping. And then like, yeah, there's kind of a quiet, and then like as the sun is like fully like come up, the Zulu are gathered at the mountain ridges at sunrise. This is very cool. And then the sun's finally up, and they're all surrounded again. And so it's like there's no end to them. They just keep coming back.
And also the Zulu rose as the sun did.
Yes.
Like they weren't staring around like, oh, they're forming up again. It's like, no, the sun came up. Those guys were waiting on the ground for the sun. They just rose with it. And we are completely like in 360 degrees. We're done.
Yeah.
These people come in here now. There is nothing we can do.
The Zulus start like a cacophonous chant, which is really cool. This is like, they have like they do an order where like they pound on the shield like a couple of times. It's very well done. The Zulu are very cool in this movie. So, yeah.
They're actually, that's what one of the things I liked about this movie is they did not attempt to make them relatable. It was only told from the British point of view, where it's like we are being attacked by an unknown, powerful alien force.
Yeah.
We cannot guess at their means, their motives, their plans, and that does keep the level of fear up.
Yeah.
Because you do not humanize your enemy in any way in this movie. It's like we are up against the wall here, and we're in the dark. We don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, they don't. They have,
much larger force has been completely destroyed by these guys. We're done, and that's one of the things that works in this movie.
The choir guy like starts singing, and the regiment joins in. Although this is kind of like faint compared to like the Zulu. It's like things. The Zulu sound cooler than this guy's song.
Language version that was used for this movie. This is called the Men of Harlock.
Okay.
Harlock was a castle in Wales that was under siege, and the men inside never gave up.
Okay.
Now, this was the Zulu version is what it's called. Because, like I said, there's a Welsh version of this that sounds cool. It sounds like, oh, they're singing in Elvish from Lord of the Rings. It's like, but men of Harlock, stop your dreaming. Can't you see their spear points gleaming? See their warrior pennants streaming to this battlefield. Men of Harlock, stand ye steady. It cannot be ever said, ye, for the battle we're not ready. Welshmen never yield. And there's like 4 more stanzas. I won't read it all. But it is cool when they sing it. But yeah, it's being completely drowned out by the Zulu, which are doing, like I said, it reminds me of like Close Encounters when they find the massive groups in the desert.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem as hostile, which I guess is like what was supposed to happen. It's like the Zulu were not this was they did the initial like the spear battering and the stuff that clearly sounds like war, and then it's become more of a song that we don't know.
Yeah.
So they just start singing their own song in defiance of like, yeah, come get us, we're gonna, we are the men of Harlock. We won't give up until the last man's dead. That's so yeah, it's a cool scene.
So there's another Zulu charge. Again, that's what they do. There's like a front line that falls back to the 9-foot wall. So again, they're doing this kind of fate and draw thing, and they start doing the rank fire now. But now they have like 3 levels of rank fire. So they just have like, they don't do the advance and fire. They just kind of like just fire as much as they can.
And this is when Bromhead and Chard, they're using their Webley pistols too. They're firing with the men.
Yeah.
Yeah, at almost point blank range. By the way, I saw one of those in a gun store for sale once.
Yeah.
It was like $1,500. Like this, I mean, because I knew it was history.
Yeah.
This is cool, and I was talking to the guy about it, and he says it is supposedly a firing model. You can get bullets for it, but it's one of those things like it's a historical firearm that like I don't have this kind of money, so
Yeah. I'm
it's
just
like
gonna look at it like, what am I
yeah,
doing?
yeah. What do I need guns that work? I don't need museum pieces that like this looks cool because I only have a limited amount of money.
Yeah, I got a bit of history, but we fired it, so
Yeah, but that's like direct American history.
Yeah.
This like a British Webley, 445 or whatever. It's like, what does that have to do with an American? Nothing, virtually nothing. That's why I like have some 1911s too, because that's like the quintessential like American, firearm. But in reality, I use Glocks because they work. And they're cheap. Yeah, it's like, and those are made by Austrians. And there's a certain Austrian that did some really bad stuff about 80 years ago. Really ironic. But, yeah. There you have it.
So yeah, they take out this charge here, and they like kind of cut to it's like 3 hours later. The Zulu haven't attacked. The soldiers have gathered up shields and spears and like gathered the dead bodies. Here we have a roll call, and we find out like who's still alive. And so it's like, whenever there's a silence, there's like this, oh man, there's a lot of silence. Oh, there's one guy like forgot his name. He's like, hey, I know you're alive. Like, say you're here. It's like, oh yeah, am I?
Yeah.
He's like, no jokes.
And that scene actually goes on for a long time, but it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's scene, but you don't notice it.
Yeah, because they cut to Chard and Bromhead like while it's still going on. So, but yeah, that's why you do roll calls. Yeah, make sure everybody's still there. So.
And so, just for the guy in that scene, Color Sergeant Frank Bourne, the real guy that did that actually fought was 23.
Yeah,
this actor was much older than the guy.
Yeah.
It's like that guy was 23 years old. That is literally my son's age.
Yeah.
And he was considered a seasoned
Uh-huh.
sergeant in the British Army at that time. It's like, oh man, it's no wonder people just didn't live very long.
Yeah, I mean, you get out. Well, I'm not sure like what school they had at the time. You could probably join the military if you weren't in primary school or whatever they consider high school or whatever. So.
Well, Color Sergeant Frank Bourne lived to be 90.
Huh.
He died in 1945, almost at the end of World War II. He was made a lieutenant colonel. He went from a sergeant to a lieutenant colonel in the British Army. So, yeah, the real guy lived a long time. Unfortunately, the actor that played him died pretty young, or at least younger than me. I mean, it's those things you see that, like, that guy was 4 years younger than me. He looks 20 years older than I do now. So it's been a rough life.
There's a lot of smoking and drinking back then. So.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of that in my life, too. But, no, not as much smoking anymore.
Chard and Bromhead, like, have like an after-action report. Like, they don't feel well after the battle and all the dead. And this is where Chard reveals that basically this was his first battle, too, which Bromhead didn't know. He assumed he had more experience than him or something. It's like,
yeah, that was a cool line, but another great piece of dialogue between those two characters, because Michael Caine's like, oh, was this as bad as the first time? And Chard said something like, are you kidding? I would never do this again. What? Oh, okay. I would never do this.
Yeah, which is a good reveal here that like, oh yeah, like there isn't glory in battle, but the politicians will do their thing afterwards when everybody gets the Victoria Cross. So.
Yeah.
Well, actually, not everybody. It's like 13 people. So we see more Zulu come from the hills, and they're surrounded once again. The Zulu start another chant. Hadnorf is like laughing as he's saying that the Zulu are saluting them for being fellow braves. So it's like, okay, this isn't like the last charge. Like this is them like, hey, thanks for the battle, guys. We're gonna head off.
We respect you. This, by the way, did not happen.
Okay, that's figured. So
they just left because they're like, my God, we lost so many people.
We have other battles to fight. Let's go find the weaker British people again.
Yeah, these lunatics. Just
um, so yeah, the Zulu turn around and walk off chanting with like their shields above their heads. Again, no idea if that's what happened or whatever. Although they did have like a what there was like some lady who was like a Zulu princess or like of descended from these people that like was like an advisor on this and showed them like how Zulu tactics work and stuff like that.
Yeah, I believe like the great granddaughter of the guy who was responsible, because this was called the Anglo Zulu War. That's what it's called now.
Yeah.
There was a few battles here, and I believe she was like the great granddaughter of the guy who led this.
Okay.
I believe is what I read.
And then we get a voiceover about like the Victoria Cross being awarded, and like kind of they go through all the names of the people being rewarded, which again isn't everybody, but it's like some standouts. So, like Hook gets one, and stuff like that. As he's carving his name into like the stables, which is the only building left, or something like that. So.
The reason more people didn't get nominated was because you know how we do the Congressional Medal of Honor, and like almost all of them are posthumous.
Yes.
Because usually there was no provision for a posthumous granting of the Victoria Cross
Oh,
at that.
okay.
So there were a lot more guys would have got nominated, but you had to be alive. That
Okay.
was
Okay. All right.
that was kind of the difference. Like now we do like because yeah, like very few people would have the Congressional Medal of Honor if you had to live through whatever insanity went on. So that we always made it a posthumous thing. They didn't start doing that, I think, until the 80s. Maybe they did it before World War II. I don't know. But
Okay.
I know there's been like they said, oh, all those guys that died would have been nominated if that was possible back then.
And again, the old school like kind of like showmanship of like these guys are fighting basically in like dress uniforms and they have medals like attached. It's like just everything's like, what do you need that when you're fighting? It's like I don't know.
Well, I think back then they only had like 3 uniforms.
Yeah.
I think they had a battle uniform and like a formal uniform and then like a go to the party uniform.
Yeah.
It's not like now. How many uniforms did you have?
Oh, it was like 6.
Yeah, you showed me all the. I was like, my God, they spent $10,000 in uniforms.
But yeah, that is the end of Zulu. So yeah.
It's a good movie. I really like it. I liked watching it this time. I've seen this movie many, many times.
Yes. It was nice to find out this movie wasn't secretly racist. It's just it's a battle that happened, and you can take what you want from it. So.
Yeah, I mean, okay, it's like they had to put a disclaimer at the beginning of it that I didn't see in the original VHS, where it did say something about some of the depictions of this movie are not like modern. This is not how we would understand this war in modern times. Like they did have a disclaimer.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. I mean, yeah, sure. There's nothing nice that went on in, colonial times, but this is a story of men at arms in their time. And it's like, this was a fine movie. No one said the N word in this movie.
No.
It was not a racist.
I think Bromhead said like the blacks one time. That was like the closest you got to like, and then it was like the Afrikaans guy was like, why are you making fun of them or they're gonna kill us all?
Yeah. It's actually a superior force.
And that guy hated them. But he respected them.
So yeah, this movie, if I guess all I can say is like watch it. If you have any it's if you think this is like some terrible like movie, like, oh, is it racist? No. Is it jingoistic in the betrayal of colonialism? Oh yeah.
That's how I always remind myself the British aren't the good guys here. They're just the guys we get to relate to. So
yeah. I mean, the guys here portrayed in this movie, they fought and died together, and chose to be brave and rose to the challenge.
Yeah.
And it's a cool story. It's like it doesn't justify everything that went on, but that's for the historians to debate.
Yeah.
Our question is, were you entertained by this movie? And my answer is yes. So,
well, again, like I haven't seen this in like 30 years.
Yeah,
so
it's been a while. Yeah.
So I was surprised, like, oh, this is still a cool movie. And it's very well. I watched it on Prime, and it was very well upkept. Like it looks good. There wasn't like somebody bothered to do like a remaster of this movie, and it looks good and sounds good. So
Yeah, and the subtitles were well done. If you have trouble with the British accents, which not too many in this movie that are indecipherable, everyone's pretty much speaks plainly.
yeah.
So yeah, there's good subtitling. It's a good clean uh, rendition of the movie. You can watch it on Amazon. You can watch it on Tubi.
I think the only other movies I know that were in 1964 were Doctor Strangelove and Psycho. I think those were
Yeah.
both in 1964. So
Yeah.
and a good year for cars.
Right. Legendary cars were created that year,
Yeah.
all over the world.
What, Kennedy was president then, right? Or no, wait, was he? Or was
He was killed in November
of
of
63?
63.
So
So
no, even that, yeah. What's it? 11/12/63. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But this movie was probably made while he was alive. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was made for £600,000, which at the time was almost $2 million in American money.
um, yeah, it was shot. It was shot in South Africa, except for like the med bay scenes. That was just done in the studio in Britain. So I heard this on like the guy who played Hook. He's like, well, it made it sound like he didn't have to go to Africa at all, but he had to have at some point. But he just, I guess, the majority of it he didn't have to,
Probably not.
because eventually he gets outside. So unless the scenes he did outside were also at a studio in Britain, so but you never know. The Britain have huge sound stages that they can employ. So
Nope. His scenes were shot in Twickenham, England.
okay,
He did not. They did not want to pay to send in as many, or they didn't want to send as many actors. They wanted to send as few actors as they could
okay.
that weren't just like paid extras in uniform to film. And they have such complicated names for things. The Transvaal something or another. The Drakensberg Mountains.
That's a cool
Everything
name.
just sounds dark and sad. It sounds like something from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Well, we're sitting here program today containing the supercut of scenes from the imperfect collection of movies that make up the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what one scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
And there's so many good scenes from this movie, but if you want to catch the spirit of it, we'll have to do the first time they fire and rank,
Yeah.
funnel the Zulus, because that is like the genesis of this movie. It's like 15 guys versus 3,000 guys. And just like standing, in the face of that kind of adversity and win. It's always cool when you win, not so much when you lose. When you win. So, yes, that would have to be it.
And you can find us on Letterboxd, username VHE. 1 out of 5 stars. What are we giving Zulu?
Oh, we're definitely giving this a hard 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those movies from like the early. For me, it's like I was a very young person when I discovered this movie, and it was also in the early days when like VCRs were actually like approachable and affordable.
Yeah.
You would have been like 5 years old or less, So I remember like getting this movie, and I think I got it from school because it was a charter media edition, which you had to order through school because it was considered like a historical picture.
Okay, yeah.
Even though there is a lot of nudity in this movie, but it's that kind of native nudity that you don't notice.
Although I must say, out of all the native nudity we've seen in several movies recently, there's some big ones in here.
There are actually some biggins. True, but
they do. But there seem to be almost like anachronistic. They all have clearly defined black panties on. So I'm not sure if this would have had those.
Yeah, I never know. I didn't notice that, but I did. I do remember like when I got this, and I don't know for sure if I got this from school, but I think I did. And I never. That's one of those things that like passed me by because then I when I watch like the Warriors' wedding scene in this, it's like, yeah, all these chicks are topless. Back even when I was 10 years old, like didn't occur to me that oh, that's just how people live over there. Because
Yeah.
over here, like no one has in America and Europe, no one has their tops off except French people because they're weird. Just, but that's just not something we do here. But you don't notice it in like other countries because it's like, oh, that's normal there. There's nothing sexy about it.
Yeah.
Like when a woman pulls her top off here, she's like saying hello
Yeah.
in the best way possible. Not so much in a place like that. So, but yeah, this movie definitely was like one of my early like, oh, I like this movie. As a kid, it was like action and adventure, and then as an adult, it's like, oh yeah, it was like history and good filmmaking.
Yeah.
Um, and a story that could have easily become dreary, boring, leaden with dialogue. None of that happened here. Everything was like to the point, on to the next scene, to the point, on to the next scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Chard and the other guy were like they were reflecting on the horrors of war, but it's like we don't have too much time to reflect. There is another wave of enemies coming. Another older movie too. It's talking about wave attacks and men in trenches and just fighting incredible odds. Cross of Iron, one of the few early World War II movies made from a German perspective where you don't just hate everyone. It's a very interesting movie about men in the worst possible situation. These were the Soviet wave attacks on the Eastern Front.
Okay.
When you're just like melting the barrels out of machine guns to stop
Okay.
these
Yeah.
guys. It's a very good movie. I forget who's in it, but yeah, it's another. If you like this movie, give that one a look. Um, it's very interesting to make a movie in the '60s that was like from the German perspective, where they weren't all like just minions of Satan. Uh,
Yeah, this is like it's a '60s action movie, which is like there's a lot of like a lot of World War II action movies around this. What was Bridge on the River Kwai made? That was like a British action movie, right?
oh yeah, well I don't know if it's action. It was more like
'57. Okay, so that's even
okay,
before then. Okay.
even before this. Yeah, this movie, like I said, it kind of started the golden age of like war movies. Most of them World War II, but this kind of movie started with Zulu and sort of ended with Patton.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies in the middle there of mixed quality, but yeah, it like this sort of movie became a thing.
It seemed like it was like a production stuff. That it's like it's the '60s. We have all this military surplus equipment that can be cheaply acquired. Like, let's make a movie.
Yeah, oh yeah, there was a lot of that too.
um,
And he also didn't have like, oh, what did there was like, because there were movies made from like the '50s until this point where it was like there was no need to have a more complex story than what the men were going through on that
yeah,
level.
yeah,
Like there was no reason to like let's reflect on the greater political meanings of it was all like John Wayne stuff.
yeah, yeah.
This was a little more nuanced than that, but like I said, nothing from the Zulu side.
No, no.
Like, why are they attacking the British? Why would they attack these funny sounding men in their cool red outfits? It's like, oh, because their country's being overran by these murderous savages from boats. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't talk about that. So that was kind of that was a form of, you don't see these type of movies anymore.
No.
People demand a more complex, nuanced.
Yeah, they
script.
want context, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas here, this kind of just like we had to go find the context. If you watch this movie, like when I was a kid, it's like, oh, it's a movie where these guys get attacked. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and the saddest thing was like, oh, the best Welsh tenor in the regiment got shot in the throat. Talk about it. He got shot in the throat. Oh, that's really bad on like in two ways. Beautiful voice. Why shot in the throat? Like it'd be better if he was shot through the heart or something.
Yeah.
Like they took his throat. Why would they do that?
I mean, are they implying he didn't die when he got shot to the throat?
Well, they're implying that he essentially was this amazing tenor, like Welsh singer, and apparently this regiment had a whole contingent of Welsh people. There were baritones, and like
Yeah.
he was the tenor. And the real sad part was like he took one in the throat. He couldn't sing anymore, and it's like, what is he dead? Was he also he is dead, but throat
It's
first, and
great
then
irony. He died by the throat.
yeah, that was the calf guy and the other Welsh guy, like the Welsh baritone guy. We're
Yeah.
talking. It's like, they shot him in the throat. It's like, that's dark.
Yeah, what's the other thing you say? Like Zulu, they don't have any tenors in the Zulu.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, there were some like weird like the contrast and comparisons that were like totally irrelevant.
Let's bring up our choir matrix during the middle of this war.
But that's how these guys interpreted it though.
Yeah.
That was their like the biggest thing in their life. Like if their biggest thing in their life was like being really good at poker, this poker metaphors to interpret to make to prevent themselves from just going insane.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this makes sense because of that, and it's like, oh, well, the Queen of Diamonds shows up statistically, and that's how we're going to get attacked next. It's going to be like the Queen of Diamonds coming up. So yeah, anything like that would work, but it's just that's what these guys are into. But because singing is seen as beautiful and artful, it's like super sad also. Because singing plays a part in this movie towards the end. That's their scream of defiance. It's like, we don't fear your sword beating or shield beating. It's like we have a history too, and it's also bloody and violent, and we're going to meet you in equal measure, which things like the British do say.
Well, Nathan, what have we learned tonight?
The colonization is violent and scary. And if you're arrogant enough to think to underestimate all your enemies, you will be found lacking.
Yeah, when like Watson and the Sherlock Holmes, is that the same time when he's fighting in Afghanistan? Is this like the same time?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I'd have to do a quick search. Let's see. When did Sherlock Holmes? When was that set? Well, I have to be careful with that because they've done like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they have to change the time. I guess I don't know the time period.
1887 was when it was published. So yeah, exactly this time.
Okay, all right. So there's just engagements all over the world. They're in Australia, they're in Africa, and they're in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this was like the sun never sets on the British Empire. I mean, they occupied the world. I still want to know how like 5,000 Royal Marines defeated India. I got to read a book about that. I don't know if it was that number, but I've heard that before. It's like because when I think like the UK completely conquered India, it's like, oh, they must have done like massive seaborne landings and so. No, it wasn't really that many people. It's like, huh? But I guess internally India was very divided too, so it was easy to exploit. It's like, hey, we'll kill the guys in the village over if you help us out. Okay, yeah, we'll do. Next thing you know, you're like working for these guys. And, what was that movie? There was another Michael Caine movie. Was it The Men Who Would Be King that he did with Sean Connery? It was about them going through the Middle East and
I don't remember that one.
People in the river, the people urinate and defecate in the river above us. It's like, we'll help you kill them. And it was a continuous movement up the river to like, they have wronged us in this way. Into the next village, we'll help you kill them too.
Oh, okay. Huh.
And in the end, they just end up being killed by the natives because they figured out it's like, these guys are assholes. They're just manipulating us.
Well, you can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There we have listener support. You can support us on monthly life on 99 cents, $4.99, cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast on a platform of choice you're listening on. You can rate us whatever you want. The only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. Remember, take control of the algorithm.
Yeah.
You can find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Blue Sky Social at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. And you can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory and watch both this and that show live and unedited. So for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.